Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Kelso Duero, and today I will be discussing to you about the postmodern and modern culture in a worldwide view. Okay, so these are the key differences between postmodernism and modernism. So first, modernism is the deliberate break from the traditional form of poetry and prose that took place in the late 1950s and early 20th century. So this means that modernism, its main purpose is to introduce a new way, a new technique of forms of any types of literature or culture such as poetry and prose, to divert it or to break down the traditional approach in terms of writing poetry and prose. While modernism, this a movement that began in the mid 20th century, is often described as a reaction against modernism. So the key differences between these two is that modernism, it seeks um, only one truth, or it is in an objective type, or it has only one truth. However, postmodernism is a subjectivity type in which it aims to seek multiple truths. That's the key differences. So postmodern in the 1960s is during the 1950s and 1960s, we see the beginnings of what is now understood as postmodernism. So postmodernism began in the year 1950s and 1960s in the account of Susan Sontag, 1966, and Leslie Fiedler, 1971, in which we encountered the celebration of what Sontag calls as a new sensibility. So there are three prominent figures when it comes to postmodernism and modernism. So the first one is this man, which is known as Jean-François Lyotard, 1984. So this man, he created a book that introduced the term postmodernism into academic circulation. So popular culture, contemporary regional culture of the postmodern condition is for Lyotard an anything goes culture, a culture of slackening where taste is irrelevant and money is the only sign of value. So therefore, in this type of approach of postmodernism and popular culture, Jean-François Lyotard states that anything goes in culture is slackening or lacking, where taste is irrelevant or value is irrelevant, because the only thing that matters, or the only thing that there's value, is money. Next is this man, which is Jean Baudrillard, in which he became one of the most high-profile postmodern theorists. However, for him, postmodernism is not simply a culture of the sign, rather is a culture of the simulacrum, which is an identical copy without an original. So what does this mean? It means that for Bollard, postmodernism is not simply a culture of the sign or a concept, but rather it is a representation of something. It's an image of something. Next is this man, which is known as Fredric Jameson. So Fredric Jameson is an American Marxist whose views differ from other theorists in his insistence that postmodernism can best be theorized from within a Marxist or neo-Marxist framework. So postmodernism is more than just a particular cultural style. It is above all a periodizing concept. Next is the postmodern pop music. So it is a discussion of postmodernism and popular culture, but highlight different cultural texts and practices, and examples for these are television and music. So the postmodernism and the modernism have different cultural texts and practices. For instance, pop music's culture rapid progression has gone through realism, which is the rock and roll modernism, and into postmodernism. So there are changes among the pop music taking place between the progression of modernism and postmodernism. So in postmodern television, Jim Collins 1992 points out television is often seen as the quintessence of postmodernism culture. So this claim can be made on the basis of a number of television textual and contextual features. So in television as postmodern, it's between textual and economic analysis. Instead of the semiotic sophistication of its intertextual play and radical eclecticism, television is condemned as hopelessly commercial. So the view of postmodernism is that it is divided into between textual and economic analysis. So therefore, rather, we know that the purpose of television is to provide entertainment and to provide information, to provide widespread information among across worldwide countries. However, it was divided into in which mostly televisions were used for commercial purposes, for economic purposes. Next is postmodernism and the pluralism of value. So the selective tradition, as William Staussonine points out, is governed by many kinds of special interest, including class interest. So particular interest articulated in specific social and historical context always inform the selective tradition. So this means that postmodernism and pluralism of value, this means that it is entirely dependent. It is what we know as the cultural value, in which some culture or some aspects of culture, such as in terms of literature, such as the techniques and styles in writing, were lost, or some of it were canonized or lost without a trace. This is because the primary reason had something to do with cultural value. So if we say that maybe the cultural value of something has been forgotten or is not that valuable in today's modern era, therefore it is then being forgotten as time passes on. Next is the global postmodern. So what does this mean? So the global postmodern, one way in which the world is said to be becoming postmodern, is in its increasing globalization. So in discussions of globalization and culture, is to see as the reduction of the world to an American global village. So a global village in which everyone speaks English with an American accent, wears Levi jeans and Wrangler shirts, drinks Coca-Cola, and etc. So this means that globalization, its purpose in the global postmodern is to change the world into an American global village. Basically, we are imitating the lifestyle of American citizens. So convergence culture. So another aspect of the postmodern is convergence culture, where old and new media collide, where grassroots and corporate media intersect with the power of the media producer and the power of the media consumer interact in unpredictable ways. So convergence culture, like most popular culture discussed in this book, is a site of struggle and negotiation. So convergence culture means there's an interaction, there's a relationship, a combination of the old and the new media, wherein its main key points in convergence had something to do with the power of the media producer, the power of the media consumer, the corporate medias, and so on. So that would be all for this part. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.